Hey, welcome to Friday. Planet Earth, Mr. H here with you, man. It was a long week. It was a rough week, but at the end of the day, it's still a good week. And I have no idea why there are tons of police sirens and motorcycles racing past my house, but something big must be happening. I'll take a look at the news later on. Don't see any SWAT teams. Don't think I'm the guy responsible for all of this. Haven't done anything in a while. I'm sure they've forgotten about that by now. Onward! Hey, I was thinking the other day, I do that sometimes, even though it hurts my head. Long ago, far away, I heard someone refer to as the 7 Years' War as the First World War. So I started thinking, what if we renamed all the wars, man? And we called the 7 Years' War the First World War. I used to freak my class out with that because I tell them the First World War started in Pittsburgh in 1754, Pittsburgh area. Right? And no one's going to worry too much about Fort Necessity. It got real when Braddock got massacred out in the woods. Okay, so that's when it got real. They declared war in 1756, so, because of the communications at the time. So what if we just called the 7 Years' War the First World War? Think about that. 1756, 1763, the First World War. We got Prussia here marching victoriously on the left, on the right. We've got Wolfe there on the plains of Abraham there dying after winning. Wouldn't that be an interesting way of calling it the First World War? And what would the second one be? Yeah, the Revolutionary War, because it involved a lot of the world. It wasn't just the U.S. and the Brits going at each other. Oh, no, we had France come in, Spain came in, the Netherlands came in, fighting over in India. Yeah, the Second World War, 1775 to 1783. George Washington crossing the Delaware over there. Wouldn't that be interesting? Call that a Second World War. And if we called it the Second World War, you know what would be the most hilarious thing about it? Yeah, the British reaction. You tell them to tell the Brits they lost the Second World War. You watch them freak out. Because the Second World War, from the mid 20th century, is such a part of their national identity. You tell them they lost the Second World War, and everybody will start freaking out over there. Might end up going to jail over that. Don't know, but I think it'd be worth it. Yeah, Mr. Bean. How can you not like Mr. Bean, right? Mr. Bean, the symbol of Great Britain. Man, has that country taken a wrong turn lately. So that means a third world war would be, I decided to take the French Revolution, Napoleonic Wars, and cram them all together. Because, the French Revolution is 1789, they start fighting everybody, starting with Austria. Then Napoleon shows up. They have that quick peace of Ames in 1803 that lasts for 9 months. And they're back at it again until 1814, and then Napoleon comes back in 1815. Let's just ram the whole thing together, man. Let's call it Third World War. French Revolution, Napoleonic Wars. 1789 to 1815, an entire generation, man. It's like the Peloponnesian War, but with muskets. There is one small problem designating this as a Third World War. Andrew Jackson showing up as usual, causing problems, right? The U.S., we jumped Britain from behind in 1812 because they were attacking our ships. Thank you very much. Then the war was over, and they couldn't quite tell the British Expeditionary Force going to New Orleans. They fought that battle anyway. We know how that turned out. And of course, Andrew Jackson in the middle of it, always causing problems, this guy, Andrew Jackson. Still upset with him for the Trail of Tears. Caused all sorts of problems with the elections, though, to his credit, he probably did get ripped off there in 1824. Just a generally unpleasant kind of guy, but, he got stuff done. So, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but other people like him. Then we got what we call a Fourth World War. Everybody took a break for a whole century, right? It's what people call the First World War. We're going to call it the fourth one, 1914 to 1918. They are standing on that trench with mud up to their mid-thigh over here. I mean, come on, man, get out of there. You're going to get sick. And here we are behind the tanks. I guess when the lines finally broke. Yeah, it's one of those wars where nobody really won. Yeah, Germany lost, but France and Britain, they were in some really bad shape. U.S. came out of it okay. We made a lot of money. So did Japan, but one of those things where nobody actually wins. If nobody actually wins, you know what happens? Yep, the guy who lost the worst comes back looking for a rematch. So after 1914, 1918, you know what's next? Yeah, the rest of the world calls it the Second World War. We're going to call it the Fifth World War, 1939 to 1945. See over here, I put this British guy capturing someone in Africa Corps, trying to make it up to the British so they don't get mad at me for saying they lost the Second World War. And there's the iconic picture here from Normandy. Right, that's a good view of everything. I think it's Normandy. Could be a training exercise. I'm gonna go in Normandy. How about you? So, will this new naming convention ever take off? Will anyone ever like it? Probably not. But if you write all of this down, you know what? You got something to drive your history professor crazy with. Go ahead, write it down. Tell me how it works out. Hopefully, you don't get thrown out of school. Hey, what's this guy? He's Albertosaurs. See, I'm on my theropod kick right now. Yep, looks like a T-Rex. Smells like a T-Rex probably. But there are a couple differences. I don't know what's up with the horns over the eyes. Maybe that existed, maybe that didn't. But it's the feet that causes a lot of speculation whether or not Albertosaurus was just a smaller T-Rex. Now, it occupied a niche earlier, and people call it a direct ancestor. It probably was. It ran around in Western Canada, Western North America, hence the name Albertosaurus. Not a guy named Albert, province of Alberta, 1884. They found T-Rex in 1905. Some people claim that Albertosaurus was, quote unquote, born as a footnote of the description of T-Rex. So some controversy over this. But it appears, the big difference appears to be it's smaller than the T-Rex. Yeah, and I love it when they say smaller than T-Rex here in North America, Taborosaurus back in Asia. Like, that's really going to make a big difference to a human being. You know, I mean, look at this thing, man. 12 feet tall, a mere 30 feet long. Definitely smaller than smaller than T-Rex and smaller than Taborosaurus. After Taborosaurus, before T-Rex, yeah, it's definitely in the family. Again, look at the legs. They look kind of small. Yeah, see, that's the one part of the animal I'm not really sure of. They have remains of 30 different specimens, but no one's really sure about the legs. And well, when they presented a somewhat completed skeleton and filled in some of the gaps and used their imagination a little bit, they came up with what I call the running Rex. Again, they're speculating about the feet, definite theropod, 3 claws in the front, 1 in the back, and they got everything up to about the shin bone over here. Everything below, they just have trouble finding remains of the feet, so they just kind of extrapolated the size, and you think it was a dainty running sort of animal that weighed about 3 tons. And the way they displayed it, it's much more dynamic looking, but you don't really know 100% if it was really a runner like this. Plus, the remains were found in places that were, again, like the Taborosaurus, was kind of swampy estuary areas. It wasn't exactly where it stayed. They've also found remains in places we know to be, the conifer forest and stuff. You're going to see T-Rex in. So it kind of is all over the place. I guess it's just kind of where they found the fossils. We don't know about the colors. This guy has an interesting take on it. They're blue on top and sort of brownish there on the bottom. But we do have skin impressions. And guess what? No feathers. Yeah, all scales. It's granted it's not complete, but, I think we saw a feather someplace, whereas T-Rex, we've seen depictions of T-Rex almost looking like a chicken, other ones with no feathers and some with a few. I kind of take the middle ground, a few feathers here and there. But when it comes to Albertosaurus, man, no definitive proof. So Albertosaurus, I've been screaming the whole time, plus Taborosaurus, they found no feathers. So it's kind of the link between, Asia and North America. He was there just before T-Rex, and I guess T-Rex just a beefed up version of Albertosaurus. Hey, how about the United Football League? Now we're into week 2, or as a friend of mine called it, as you look at the map, the Eastern Football League. Yeah, it does look kind of east there, doesn't it? 3 teams in Texas, everybody else is east of the Mississippi. Well, you got to start someplace, huh? Well, week 1, we had some really good games there. Birmingham and Arlington, the battle of the champions. Turns out the USFL champion defeated the XFL champion, fairly decisive in Arlington, 27-14. The other USFL XFL clash between Michigan and St. Louis came down to the wire. Michigan won at 18-16 on a 64-yard field goal by Jake Bates. 64 yards. The NFL record 65. This is definitely a UFL record. It was in a dome. In fact, the NFL record was set in that same dome. We're in the same spot of the field. That would be kind of interesting. Hey, I'm still impressed, man. 64-yard field goal, even if it was inside a dome. Memphis knocked off Houston 18-12, and San Antonio defeated the DC Defenders 27-12, giving DC a second straight defeat in San Antonio in their history. What's it look like in week 2? Well, we got the Memphis Showboats hosting the San Antonio Brahmas. The Brahmas do not have a white visiting jersey. They wear yellow on the road, just in case you're wondering what that was. Over on the Memphis side, we got Case Cookus over here, the former Philadelphia Stars quarterback. Well, after a dispersal draft, Memphis picked him up. He had a fantastic game. Everybody in Memphis is singing praises of Case Cookus, at least at the moment. We'll see how it turns out after the game on Saturday. Hey, Arlington plays St. Louis tomorrow as well. Arlington, talking about looking for a second straight championship, may have still been hung over from their championship celebration, losing to Birmingham on opening day. Now they go into the Battle Dome. They got to do battle here with the Battle Hawks at the Dome and American Center in St. Louis. That's going to be a raucous place, 35,000 people. That was the average last year. They'll probably do it again. Maybe they'll even open up the upper deck. I haven't found out if they've done that yet. Arlington is happy to point out that they went to St. Louis last year and won the championship there. San Antonio, what's wrong with Mr. H? And won the championship there, and so now they're going to St. Louis to win another championship, which is possible. Season's still young, but hey, you got to win a game first there, man. Just like your Cowboy counterparts, you're talking a lot and not really doing anything yet. The Birmingham Stallions against the Michigan Panthers. Old USFL clash. Old, 3 years now they've played against each other at some point. So Birmingham heads to Michigan. How about that? Starting off games on a road. That's kind of a novel experience for Birmingham. Of course, they defeated Arlington fairly decisively last week, so seems to be adopting to this novel experience fairly well. This should be interesting, and of course, you know the big game breaker for Michigan is their kicker. He can hit it from 64 out. Maybe he'll try to go for 65 next. And then we got the Houston Roughnecks, formerly the Gamblers, still the Roughnecks, against the DC Defenders, another interconference clash. You know how I feel about Houston's helmets. Look at that. I hate that half and half and then a quarter bit. Pick one side or the other. This is the side I think they should pick. I need to send these people an email. Pick this helmet. Look normal. DC Defenders, 9-1 last year. Lost the championship, claimed they should have been the champions. They lost opening day, so looks like you're doing a lot of talking, not backing it up yet. So Audi Field, kind of small, should be sold out. Another raucous crowd. We're going to see how that goes. Definitely a game I'm going to be watching just because I think it'll be a good game. Plus, I want to see the beer snake again. Yes, that's from 2020. That's when it began, but nonetheless, it shows you the essence. That is the beer snake. And when you've done watching all these games, when you've done digesting all of the stats and trying to figure out where everybody is going because it's week 2 in a 10-week schedule, you should then sit down and read Mr. H's book, Heaven Steel. It's on Lulu.com. Check it out. Supporting indie authors, people who write their own books. We don't have ghostwriters. We don't believe in that. It's mine. I wrote it. Whatever you think about it, at least I did it. All righty. You guys have yourself a fantastic day. And I will see you when I see you, i.e. next week. Das vidanya.